to Life with Trey and Jay. But first and foremost, I have to say this is the lives. Okay, this is our
Yes,
Thursday lives
we are
with Trey
live.
and Jay, and I'm Trey.
And I'm Jay.
And listen, I'm going to just kind of pull up and let y'all know. Make sure you check us out on Instagram. Make sure you check us out on YouTube as you're here. Duh,
Mhm.
right? Make sure you check out our website. Make sure you check out our link tree, like all the things. Follow, keep in contact, let us know where you at. But I'm gonna slide it over to Janelle so she can tell us what we doing today, so she can let y'all know to pull up. Pay attention.
So this month, in the month of April, we're talking all about urban apologetics, and it's super exciting because I don't believe in coincidences, but one of the individuals we really love, well, we have two people that we really love to listen to, but one is his name is Eric Mason, and he just came out with his book called Urban Apologetics a few days ago,
Mhm.
and so apparently, like that's the talk that everybody's talking about urban apologetics this month, which we should always be talking about because it's such a great topic, right?
Urban apologetics, y'all. Quick note.
What is it?
Jesus in the hood. That's how I like to just say it.
That's
It's
what
like,
she
what does
said.
that look like? What does it mean when Jesus is in the hood? How do you hear that? What does it mean? All of the,
Yeah.
all the unpacking. Go ahead.
So that's what we're talking about in the month of April. Last week, we talked about the emotional and spiritual health of Black men. And
Woo,
now,
a
today, we're
great
talking.
conversation,
It was a
y'all.
great conversation.
Woo.
Go check that out. It was with teaching pastor Rasul. He was dope.
Yeah.
And now, today, we're talking about being a creative and loving Jesus. What does that
Mhm.
mean? Does your life stop when you have a relationship with Jesus? How do you bring the two together? And when we thought about this topic, we thought about Darrell. Like we both were like, "Yep, Darrell." Darrell is one of our friends. He's a great lyricist. He's a great apologist. He's a great husband and a great father. And so we definitely wanted to have him on. And so let's bring him on. Darrell. Sorry. There you go.
Yes, there
Hey,
you go. There you go.
Darrell, aka Stephen the Levite. We are
hey,
so excited to have you.
hey,
Welcome.
it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so Steve, I was gonna say Steven. Darrell, Stephen Levite, is our actual friend.
Mhm.
His wife and his family lived in Brooklyn, and we got to meet him about what 6 years ago, five
Oh
years
my
ago, something like that.
gosh. Isn't that
And you
crazy?
know how it's been a while because we saw Brooklyn in that video that
And we were
Trish,
like, who
and
is
we were like,
that?
no.
Who is that? Oh my gosh.
So Brooklyn is his daughter, his first daughter. He has 4 kids, and so we've seen his children, we've seen his family, we love them dearly. And we have had great conversations with himself and his wife. And they've actually been on the show with us a few times. But this
Mhm.
time we have Darrell because he's good at what he does. So, you know what? Before we get into who you are and you tell us about that, Trey, can you tell us about that story that you were telling me
Which
a little
story? Which story?
when
I
you
apologize.
were
My cousin just spoke.
Oh, okay. So Stephen the Levite slash Darrell is a great lyricist, but for a long time Tracy was like hip
Oh
hop,
yes.
Christian hip hop. I don't know.
Oh yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So what happened is, shout out, I always say this, shout out to Trisha Bell, the
His
wife
wife.
of Darrell Bell.
Mhm.
But I was always very much so like, I don't get the idea around you a rapper and you Christian. I just thought it was hella corny, like from Jump Street. And so Trish was like, there's some really great music. Like, and I was like, no, it's a hard no. It's hella corny. I
It's
just don't get it.
preconceived notion,
And
right?
then it was so crazy because I was always around y'all. And then it's not until we went to this conference and I was like, wait a minute. Wait, he's a rapper? Wait, what? And I'm like, there's no way.
So
Wow.
can I pause you for a second?
Go ahead.
It's not that Darrell is a rapper because when you hear about rappers, you think, oh, okay, like he could just be somebody who does this for fun. Now, when he got on the stage, the crowd just like swarmed over to the stage, and
I
people were
was
like
shocked.
bopping it, knowing the lyrics.
So
You know, it wasn't like something that he just hit. It was like, oh, I've been
gosh.
rocking with him for a while. I'm glad that
That's
he's
what I'm
here.
saying. I was so
Like,
shocked.
actual fans of Stephen the Levite. So,
That's what's
Wow.
and
up.
it was the Legacy Conference.
Yep.
Yeah.
You remember that? We all went to the Legacy. So
Yeah.
anyway, tell us about yourself. A little bit about yourself, Darrell.
Well, I have been doing music since like 98, I think. Like, I've been
Wow.
like trying to write and do stuff like that. I mean, I could go back further to just trying to put in talent shows and stuff, but I actually started writing my own stuff back in like 98. And I got saved in 2000. I went through a period where I was kind of like Tracy. I was like, I don't know if God even wants me doing music. Like, I don't know if hip hop and Jesus go together. Like, what am I supposed to do? And at some point, I ended up teaching. I was like helping out with the youth group, and because I was kind of one of the older people in the group, and they asked me to help teach this Sunday this lesson or whatever about using your gifts. And the thing that I had to teach ended up convicting me and telling me like, yo, like if you know how to rap, then you need to go ahead and rap for Jesus. And I was like, all right, well, there's my answer. Like that's what I need to do. So
That's
so
what's
I went
up.
back into the music, and I've been kind of going hard ever since. So, yep.
So this is the thing. Once you just said that, I'm like, you already know we about to get into the things, okay? Because like, first of all, rapping for Jesus. Let's just get our minds around that part, right? Because that's a real thing. Like you were talking about, like I love hip hop. I love Jesus. And even in the way that you explained it, it was like two totally different things. So
Yeah.
how in the world do they come together? That's one. And then like, how'd you get this name? Like, how'd you come up with like Stephen the Levite? Like,
All right,
where'd that come from?
I'll start with Stephen the Levite. So around the time that I was starting to do music, I was in Bible college, and I had been learning about the scriptures and stuff like that. And again, around that time, there were rappers that had interesting names like Jedi, Son of Spock, and like True Goy the Dove, and so like there were like these interesting names, like that didn't necessarily like the first and second half of the names didn't actually have to match. You know what I'm saying? Like Jedi is one series, Spock is from the other series. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, oh, so I don't have to it doesn't have to make sense. Like Steven doesn't have to be a Levite. I just like the idea of both, and so I'm gonna snatch them both and put them together. I liked what Stephen in Acts chapter 6 and 7 represented, and I liked the idea of the Levites because again in the Old Testament, like if you weren't a Levite, you couldn't do music, like like be part of the choir or play in the band or whatever. It was just like it was strictly for the priesthood. So that's kind of like the mentality that came behind it when I was like Stephen the Levite. Like I'm like Stephen, but like I've been called. You know what I'm saying? So,
Oh,
so
that's
yeah,
so dope. So
yeah.
dope.
So as far as like bringing the two together, like it's interest. Like it's great that you're bringing it up because it's something that like in like what I would call like hip hop culture indigenous missionaries have been trying
I
to
love that.
like figure out and put labels on and like find defenses for in the scriptures like since the beginning almost. You know what I'm saying? Like since Christians have been rapping, there's always been pushback from other church, members and leaders saying you can't do that. That doesn't work. Hip hop is secular, it's worldly, you know what I'm saying? How can you redeem that? That doesn't work. But I think I've been lucky enough to kind of come behind people that have kind of laid out a foundation for the apologetics for those kind of arguments, and have been able to kind of point to the scriptures and say, and specifically to the gospel. You know what I'm saying? Like when you look at the gospel, I always say this because people don't think of it this way, but Paul didn't come up with the idea of I became a Jew to reach the Jews. He saw it when he saw Jesus, because Jesus became a Jew to reach the Jews. God is not Jewish.
Right. God is God. Right.
God is God. He created the Jews. So he is Jesus was a missionary to the Jewish culture. You know what I'm saying? So he put on Jewish culture, he became Jewish, and he was committed to that too, to the extent that when Gentiles would ask him stuff, he'd be like, why should I give you anything? I'm here for the Jews. And they'd be like, well, what about the dogs that eat the crumbs from the table? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like he was full on committed. And so, like, in the same sense, I think Christian rappers have developed the philosophy and the theology and the missiology to understand that our goal is totally biblical. It's biblical for us to look at the culture and ask ourselves, what does it look like for Jesus to be a part of this? What part, in Paul, specifically, I look at 1 Corinthians 11, he gives the church the freedom to determine what aspects of the culture can be redeemed to speak the gospel in their language, and what parts need to be tossed to the side. You know what I'm saying? And there's freedom because it's culture. It's not like
it's nothing bad.
White, like, again, some things, you know what I'm saying? There's stuff that's evil, there's stuff that's good, and then there's this like the cultural kind of gray area in between that kind of like that depends on the way it's communicated. You know what I'm saying? In some cultures, you can put up your middle finger and nobody's going to be offended because it doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? In some cultures, you put up a peace sign backwards and they're going to be offended because even though you meant peace, to them it means something else. You know what I mean?
F you.
So again, culture, and again, and this goes back to Jesus becoming a Jew to reach the Jew. There's no communication without context, and the context is culture. So if you don't have a history of offering systems and a language of Hebrew and a culture of agriculture and things like that, then Jesus coming and trying to say everything that he's saying doesn't mean anything, because who understands him, right? And in the same sense, hip hop culture provides a context that Jesus, based on the Great Commission, wants to send people into, to put on that culture, to speak that language, to understand the people that they're talking to, and give them the truth in a way that they would understand it. And that's the call of, at least, again, hip hop has gotten to a place now where, everybody likes hip hop. It's in commercials. You know what I'm saying? It's all
the
over
white grandma in Arkansas.
You know what I'm saying?
So she's 80 years old and she likes hip hop somehow.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily a strictly hip hop culture kind of thing. But at least for me, like coming from the hip hop culture, and I have to kind of qualify this too, like when I was in high school, at some point I made the decision that instead of hanging with the black table, I was going to hang with the hip hop table. You know what I'm saying? Because culturally I identified with the hip hop table more than the black table. They liked hip hop, I liked Biggie. My friends were like, the hip hop table had people who knew how to break dance, who knew how to write graffiti, a few DJs, and a couple other rappers who could freestyle and all that kind of stuff.
And weren't you in California?
This is in California, yeah.
So he likes Biggie in California. Do y'all hear that? He was on the west side like an east side. I just have to say that.
Like in the early 90s,
the W for me. Oh my God. Oh my God.
All right, sorry.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. So again, culturally, I identified with the hip hop crowd
Hip hop
more
table,
because I
yeah.
was just like, I can't get into Two Live Crew and Tupac, and I don't understand all the drama over here, and
Yeah.
so there were certain things that I just, but again, these people knew the music that I was listening to, and they liked it too, and they understood the lingo. They dressed the way I dressed, or at least they had the respect for it. So so again, hip hop, culturally speaking, like that's the people that I'm trying to reach, and that's where my respect comes from. You know what I'm saying? So, when I started doing music, my goal has, since then has always been like, how do I maintain my, my like an ear from that culture. You know what I'm saying? And how do I stay true to being a part of that culture? So and that's why I have no problem doing, like, I wrote an article called "Don't Call It a Mixtape" back in the day, where I was like basically saying, look, like, if it's done by a rapper, then it's not a mixtape. If it's not, because DJs did mixtapes in my era when I grew up, you know what I'm saying? Because that's and I had a long list of things or whatever for it, but like that's my culture. Like, I grew up in an era where DJs did mixtapes and rappers didn't. Rappers were like one of the many features on a mixtape. You know what I'm saying? Um, so that's an element of the culture that I felt like needed to be preserved, because cats are putting out mixtapes that are really just like a free album. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah,
that's
people
not
even
a mixtape, bro. Like, where's the where's the tape? You know what I'm saying?
you real hip hop. A lot of
Exactly.
us are commercial hip hop,
Yeah.
which I know I see to be the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you're a believer, your purpose starts with Jesus, right? So as a new believer, our purpose. So let me bring that back. This past Sunday, I was at Epiphany Brooklyn service, and Pastor B said, "Purpose starts with Jesus,"
Mm-hmm.
and a very simple line. And I was like, absolutely. Like, for me, I was doing a lot of different things before I surrendered to Jesus, and then I realized, wow, I'm actually really creative. And it's like he downloaded all these great things, in my heart and my mind. And so purpose starts with Jesus. And I finally got to like really know my purpose once I surrendered. In what ways has that freed you to pursue a life as a lyricist that, a lot of Christians feel like, well, we kind of talked about that already. A lot of Christians, when they first start their relationship with Jesus, they feel like they have to like put down everything that they've ever done or who they are,
Yeah.
and become what they think a Christian is.
Yeah.
Because that's a culture in itself.
Is a void. Everything else before is void.
Yeah. And so what would you say to a person that has just started a relationship with Jesus, but they have gifts and talents and, all these things? How do you help them to navigate through that learning of what's what and what to use? And like you said, what to get rid of, what to discard?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like major, because like,
Major.
yeah, really major. Like, I had the opportunity to go to Ecuador a while back, and I went to this. It was a middle school. It was mainly for missionaries, and it was cool. Like, I was invited by a Latino brother of mine who speaks Spanish, and it's in Ecuador, but they all spoke English at the school because American missionaries, I believe, had kind of set it up there, and and we've been talking about white evangelicalism and colonizers and stuff like that, and the fine line between colonizing and the Great Commission.
Yeah.
But and again, I didn't see it. I kind of saw it, but not in those terms yet. But like because of what I'd learned about hip hop and like the wider hip hop campaign that Cross Movement did around around 2000, like early 2000s. I kind of had like some of the theological understanding to kind of communicate to the kids, because I was just like, yo, like, I don't want these kids to feel like because they're in an English speaking school in Ecuador run by Christians, mainly white Christians, that they had to conform to American Christianity
Yes.
in order to be who God wanted them to be.
What a tension that would be.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
that
like,
they can't be Ecuadorian in their culture. Like,
yeah. So,
be please.
yeah. So I made sure I did, like, because it was like Spirit Week. So they had like me and Zeta Blacksmith, Jose, the other part of kind of on the right after we did the collective album. And we had opportunities to teach. He taught twice and I taught twice that week. And one of the messages I did was about just like being yourself, like, but redeemed, you know what I'm saying? And what that looks like. And like, because again, like, God created you to be exactly who you are. He created your personality, your character, your talents, all that stuff, right? And a lot of times church culture, depending on what kind of, even Black church culture made me feel like I had to listen to gospel music. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, we talk about that next week. Come on, Darrell.
Yes. Stay tuned for next week about that, y'all. Yeah.
So so every church culture kind of has their ideal or their, kind of like cultural, pressures that they kind of put on new believers. And so I felt like I had to listen to gospel music. At some point I realized I didn't have to and I stopped.
Right.
And so, again, depending on where you're at, you know what I'm saying, you may feel like I have to be like this and I have to put down Christian hip hop, or I have to put down this dancing that I do, or this artwork that I do, or whatever, right? But it's really up to you to know God and to know your culture and the scriptures well enough to figure that stuff out. And that's, and again, that's the beauty of it. Like, it would be a lot easier, I guess you could say, if Paul had laid out like, yeah, so this is what it is. Like, this churches should go like this. They start at this time. They, we have worship for this amount of time. We sing these kinds of songs, and that's it.
He did not.
And the sermon has to be this long. You know what I'm saying? But that's not what happened. The Bible gives freedom because the Bible makes room for the fact that there are multiple cultures all over the globe. And God isn't, it's not like Islam where like you have to read it in Arabic, and they kind of, to an extent kind of bring the culture with them wherever they go. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people in Philly that dress like they're in Saudi Arabia because
true.
You know what I'm saying? You got they dress for the heat, but there is there is no heat, bro. Like, come on, man.
Right.
So there's interesting. It doesn't have that same kind of like cultural superiority that comes with that kind of doctrine or whatever. So there's that freedom of like, look, if this is how y'all do it, then do it that way. Just make sure that the people around you who are part of that culture understand that you're not being ungodly. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, what you're saying sounds super free.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't think Christianity and freedom go together.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think it's so important for you to mention that, so that we can highlight that, because it literally, the idea around that question, the reason why we came up with that question in particularly is because it's a struggle when you walk in to the faith and you're looking at people, right?
Right.
You are physically looking at people and they are looking prim and proper at all times. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, that's not what I look like. That's not, as you were talking about, that's not the way that you dress or dressed at that time. It's like, I don't dress like that. I don't necessarily feel comfortable with y'all. Like, I don't feel like I relate to y'all. Y'all look very, very different to the point where I'm not attracted. Like, it's not something that I want. I don't find it interesting at all, because of the fact that you come off that way. And so I think it's so important for you to highlight that and then recognize like, yo, that there's mad freedom in it. Like this is not a Rubik's cube. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like it gotta all
it has
shape
to
out.
be one way
Look to this way, look to that way, and if it doesn't, it's not correct.
Right.
So that's mad dope. But Darrell, we got one last official question for you, but it's like it's kind of twofold. But I want you to answer the first one. But so let's get real with it. Like, how is it, right?
Let's get real with it.
Like, how is it being a rapper, like for real, and making income? Like, what does that look like? Building your life around your passion, what you believe is your purpose, what you believe you are called to do, while it is still very much so creative and fluid and free in nature.
He has 4 kids, y'all.
He got 4. Listen, he got a clan. Stop. He got 4 kids, y'all. Okay.
Yeah.
4.
Yes.
I would say it's a struggle because you have to count the cost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I knew from the gate, like, I'm an underground Christian rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, some would say I've set 2 roadblocks ahead of me by doing it that way. I know what sells, and I know that I don't like it, and I won't do it. You know what I'm saying? So I've always had a second job. You know what I'm saying? Like, always.
I love how you mentioned that whatever it was your second, because your first was this.
Yeah, because this is the one thing I've been doing the most consistent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been rapping since like 2000. Like, as a Christian rapper, I've been rapping since 2001. You know what I'm saying? And like, so it's always been, you know, the thing that I have the most experience with. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, so it's just, you know, you have to count the costs. Like, there's wisdom in trying to figure out how can I make this work? How can I better, you know, market myself? Do I need a team? Do I need a manager? My wife's done a great job of doing that. You know, can I get my stuff in placements on TV or in movies and stuff like that? That's been cool for me personally, like getting some of my stuff placed in different places. You know, but doing shows, like making sure you're available for those things and whatnot. But again, I already know that I'm not going to make enough money to take care of all 6 of us by myself. So it's always been like, well, that's cool. In the meanwhile, I also got this 9 to 5 on the side that's going to actually like really, really provide and make sure that we're taken care of. But, you know, it's always been like, how can I improve in my craft and do it better so that I can make more money? So that, because again, there's always going to be that tension of the more time that I can spend on it, the more I can probably make from it. But again, like if I'm spending more time on it, I have to be making money from it so that I don't have to do this other thing.
Yeah.
There's always like that tension of like, well, which comes first and how do I? So, you know, but so it's a challenge, especially again, if you're a Christian rapper, it's always going to be a challenge. And, you know, and you want to make sure your intentions are good, which is why it's always good for me personally to have that other job. That way I can do it the way I want to do my music. I can say what I want to say. When, you know, when white Christians are threatening, like, oh, I can't follow you no more because you did strange fruit or whatever, I don't have to worry.
Oh, yeah, the one we posted today.
Yeah, so like I don't have to worry about like, well, dang, I really need that check from them. Maybe this is stop making such controversial music. Like I don't have to worry about that because I got another job. I'm gonna just do what I want to do and call it a day. So I'm not so married to the job that I'm like, yo, but what do the people want? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm always gonna do what I feel comfortable doing. Like we're talking about apologetics, right? I have no defense if I'm making music that I don't like.
Yeah.
There's no apologetic for that. If I put, especially if they don't like it either, you know what I'm saying? Like if I put out a whack song that I don't like either, and they're like, yo, I don't like it either. Why'd you make it? It's like, well, I don't know.
What's the point?
Like, it's not like I liked it. I just thought you guys would like it. Well, I didn't like it either. So as long as I love it, and I feel like, yo, this is great, I'm going to feel good about performing it. And, you know, usually there's, you know, a squad of other people out there that enjoy it as well. So making sure I have the freedom. Again, it's all about freedom. I want to be free to do it the way I want to do it. And that's what Paul talked about. Like, I have the freedom to put down or pick up whatever I want to for the sake of the mission, to make sure that Jesus' message is getting out there. Nobody can hold me like hold a charge against me for certain things. I have like complete freedom to do this the way that I need to and want to, you know, again, for the sake of the mission. So,
Darrell, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thanks
you.
I just want to say two things. One, Paul, because we talked about Paul a lot. Paul is actually, for those who don't know, Paul is he's a pivotal part of the Bible. Like, he wrote about most of the New Testament, about 3/4 of the New Testament. So you definitely want to check out who Paul is, because his story is very interesting. And then two, we have to have you on again because you started answering this last question with two roadblocks, quote unquote. The one being an underground rapper, and the one, I'm assuming you said that you being a Christian rapper.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that big thing about when Lecrae, was it like 5-6 years ago, said, "Oh, I'm a rapper that's Christian, not a Christian rapper." And that is a conversation I think we can always have. And we don't have enough time to go over it, but that's an interesting conversation. Why would he say he's a rapper that's a Christian and not a Christian rapper?
Yeah.
Man. And this is the third thing. This is the book we talked about earlier, Urban Apologetics. My husband came up and showed it to me. He just got it. And I would highly recommend to go get it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Okay.
Trey,
so listen, don't forget, y'all. Thank you for joining live, our Thursday lives with Trey and Jay. I'm Trey.
And I'm Jay. And that's Darrell.
And that's
Stephen
Darrell.
Levite.
Yes, Stephen the Levite. So please make sure you guys are tuning in to our Instagram and subscribing to this channel on our YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're looking forward to seeing you next Thursday, same time. New topic. Woo! Let's go.
And I'm going to put how to get in touch with Stephen and Levite, Darrell, in the description.
Yes.
All right. You got to get his music. Take care, y'all.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Peace.
Good night.
Good night.